Good morning. I'm TheatreWorks USA's Artistic Director, Barbara Pasternak. My pronouns are she, her. I have blondish, longish hair, very long bangs that hang over my large black glasses. I'm wearing a maroon shirt with white polka dots, and I'm speaking to you from Manhattan, the land of the Lenape. I ask you to join me in acknowledging the Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. I'm delighted to welcome you to this panel today, Larry Itliong, Journey for Justice. Prior to the pandemic, TheatreWorks USA's productions reached over 1 million young people each year, providing high-caliber theater experiences and arts enrichment opportunities to schools and communities across New York City and North America. Until we're able to safely produce theater for live audiences, we remain committed to doing what we can to keep theater accessible, relevant, and present in the lives of young people, educators, and families across the country. We're equally committed to providing programming that is based on a range of ideas and perspectives, that promotes a greater understanding and respect for diversity, equity, and inclusion, combats bigotry, racism, and injustice, and gives voice and expression to the broadest range of histories and experiences. The stories we tell represent the diversity of the audiences we serve. The event today is part of our exciting new series, Who Tells Your Story, currently streaming on TWUSA TV. We've commissioned artists from traditionally underrepresented groups and asked each to select a historical figure, someone who inspires them, and to write and produce a music video sharing that person's story. AJ Rafael chose Larry Itliong. AJ Rafael is a singer, songwriter, and content creator from Moreno Valley, California. With over 1 million subscribers on YouTube and 900,000 listeners on Spotify, AJ was recognized as the Filipino American game changer by the city of Los Angeles in 2017. His debut album, Red Roses, charted on Billboard and at number 4 on the pop iTunes charts. AJ continues to make music and upload videos as he did when he first started back in 2006. He's also active in the theater world, performing and music directing in theaters around the United States, such as East West Players, Performance Riverside, and American Repertory Theater. Let me introduce AJ Rafael.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm AJ Rafael. Thank you so much, Barbara, for that intro, and everyone at TheatreWorks USA. Hello to our lovely virtual audience. It's so nice to be here. It's so good to be here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, just because there's a lot that's gonna be happening today, and I'll be premiering this music video and this song I wrote for the very first time. So I'm very happy that you all are here virtually. And for those watching later, thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love to talk about this project a little bit before I bring on our first guest to be part of the panel. The reason I chose Larry Itliong was a bunch of things, and a lot of factors came into this, but I believe it was all divine, if you will. I feel like this project chose me in a lot of ways, and the subject and Larry Itliong. So I had gotten in contact with Barbara at TheatreWorks USA through our good friend Catherine Ricafort, who is a Broadway vet and an amazing performer and happens to also be Filipino American. And they were planning to do a project based on Larry Itliong. And I didn't know much about Larry Itliong. So when Barbara asked me to do this project, the list that I had for figures that I wanted to write about, historical figures, ranged from all the way Mozart to Filipino national hero Jose Rizal. But then I kept the name Larry Itliong in the back of my head, and he kept popping up. And I happened to play for Larry Itliong Day for a virtual event, and that solidified it. And I said, wait, I just played this event, Larry Itliong, and Barbara was just like, let's do it. and I'm just so blessed to have done a deep dive into Larry Itliong's legacy, and that includes meeting um, my new friend and an amazing writer and overall amazing person, Gayle Romasanta, who I'm going to bring on the panel now. Gayle, I'm going to say this bio first before you say hello, because this is so well deserving and you've done so much for our community. Gayle Romasanta is a writer and artist. Her work has appeared on television, radio, online, journals, books, everywhere, such as the New York Times, all the way to ABS-CBN, that's the Filipino channel, and more. She co-authored the first book about labor leader Larry Itliong, Journey for Justice, The Life of Larry Itliong, with the late and great historian Dr. Don Mabalon. And formerly, she was the artistic director for Bindlestiff Studio, which was the only Filipino American theater space in the US. And currently, she's an artist in residence at Brava for Women in the Arts, located at Brava Theater in San Francisco, writing and co-composing a new musical about Larry Itliong. That's so awesome. She's also the dramaturg for several upcoming theater productions, including Prieto by Yosemar Reyes, directed by Kat Vasco, produced by Joan Asato and Jose Antonio Vargas. Gayle is also the founder of Bridge and Delta Publishing, a publishing house committed to telling immigrant stories that are American at their core. Check out www.bridgedelta.com. So if everyone could give a warm virtual welcome to our good friend here, Gayle Romasanta. Hey, Gayle.
Hi, AJ. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much, TheaterWorks USA um, creative team, and definitely to Barbara for bringing us all together. And I'm so excited for this project. And when I heard about it, when AJ had contacted me, I was really, really excited that an artist, and definitely one, AJ, with your audience and definitely with your creativity, and to bring a fresh new take and a fresh new look at this untold history. We
Yeah.
really haven't been telling this history on a really wide national basis. Um, you know, Specifically as a community, not for too long now. A very concerted effort, nationwide effort to speak about Larry
Yeah.
Itliong. So I'm really
Totally.
excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Gayle. I totally feel you and hear you on all of that. I wish it was being told more, and hopefully this is another new beginning and a new start. And maybe you felt the same way that I'm feeling now when you wrote this book and released this amazing book with Dr. Don and illustrator Andre Sabayan. There it is, Journey for Justice: The Life of Larry Itliong. And this completely inspired the project. So could you talk about that and why that became and how that became?
I was talking with Dawn, and I knew that she was writing the adult version. She was writing a book for college age students about Larry Itliong. And I asked her if she wanted to do the children's book with me. I had done a children's book before, and I said, my children do not have anything to read about Larry Itliong, and here they are getting asked year after year, and I have 4 kids, um,
Mm,
year after year to write about a famous person, and no one in this list looks like them or is of Filipino American descent. And Larry Itliong is should be well known. He was a leader in the farm labor movement, in the farm worker movement, and he also was a leader at the UFW when Cesar Chavez, when the Filipino and the Mexican organizations came together and became the United Farm Workers. Cesar Chavez was the director, and Larry Itliong was the assistant director. So there's so much history and so much things that we need to know about this person. Yet my children, I couldn't pass this history down to my children
mm,
because it was all college aged, right? It's if you have the privilege of going to college where they teach you this in a Filipino American history class, um, then you get this information. Otherwise, the next generation is really out of luck and have to wait until they take those classes. And so we decided to do this book. Um, and I just really wanted to solve a problem for my own family. And luckily other folks have loved it too. The community has loved it, and they have stood by this book, and they've stood behind us for the whole time we were creating it, and for the whole time that we put it out, we pushed it out, and we did a nationwide tour to make sure that we are telling our story, and we are telling it with our community. And so I have nothing but gratitude for our community. And just like what you said, AJ, this is all divine. With Dr. Dawn Mabalon, she's no longer here with us, and she was the researcher behind this book. And this is all of her research. So I'm thanking right now Larry and Dawn,
Yes.
for being here, and for being, their spirit and their energy is with this as we tell this story. And I'm so excited that you're able to tell his story too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gail. And I know we are going to get into this today because we have some students here with us who will join us later for a Q&A, and some other special guests as well on this panel. So we are going to get into more about Larry Itliong and why this matters. But I wanted to ask, maybe generally, Gail, why does telling history and stories like this matter? And I'm talking specifically, it is Filipino American specifically, but it is American history. So not just for Filipino Americans like you and I, but for everybody.
It is so important to see people of color, and specifically Filipino Americans, part of solutions, part of actually changing physically, historically, emotionally the state of California, in turn the rest of the United States, by fighting for farm worker rights.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine when this happened in 1965? There were nothing for these farm workers. They just decided to go on strike. And so to see us in that light, that people of color can see each other and ourselves in these children's books, in the media, statistically, if you're a teacher, that raises student data. If you're a school district, that raises student data. Children are more engaged, especially those who may not even be doing well. Stanford did a study on it. So there's so many good, positive things that communicate and shows our communities and our cultures that we are part of the solution. We are part of history. For instance, the reason why we learn about the American Revolution and, Americans throwing tea overboard,
Mm-hmm.
To fight for a United States, is the same thing as Americans during this time, the farm workers fighting for their rights. Here in the United States, and asking for that dignity, for asking for the equality that the United States, what we have, we've talked about the United States as a place where we can do that, and to see that in history, I think definitely encompasses that idea that we can do these things, and we will engage our communities to let everyone know about it.
Yes, amen. We definitely need to tell our stories worldwide, nationwide. So thank you again, Gail. Well, without further ado, and Gail's going to be back here on the panel after we watch this music video. But yeah, I would love to. I'm so excited, and everyone here, all the panelists and the virtual attendees. This will be the first premiere of this new music video, a song I wrote called "Our Friend Larry Itliong," with music video director Charles Oy. Without further ado, here it is. What happens when our history finally makes it on the page? There's something missing that our schools just don't say. So maybe it's time that we put our story right where it rightfully belongs. Let's learn some more about our friend Larry Itliong. Larry was an immigrant man. He left the Philippines for the American dream and came here to study law. At least that was his goal, but then reality hit. Couldn't afford the toll, so he became a farm worker, working in Alaska, Washington, and in California. He lost 3 fingers from working so hard. He was called Seven Fingers from that point on. Ha. But before we get into what he did, you gotta learn what a strike in a union is. A union is an organized group of workers, and a strike is when those workers protest their employers. So Larry got the Filipinos in the unions to stand up for fair wages and good working conditions. He started a strike, and I'll tell you why it matters. So let's turn the page to the very first chapter. What happens when our history finally makes it on the page? There's something missing that the schools just don't say. So here we are, telling the story of a man who knew right from wrong. Let's learn some more about our friend Larry Itliong. Modesto was nicknamed Larry by his dad and his mom. He was born in the Philippines in Pangasinan. Since he was little, wanted to go to America. A briefcase, nice suit, and beautiful fedora. He turned 15 and made his dreams come true. He didn't have his dad's permission, but he still went through. Gambled all his savings for a ship that left Manila with only $50. He dreamt of becoming a lawyer. Arrived in Seattle, met the other Filipinos. They all gave up their dreams to survive, so now he knows realities are coming to the country of your dreams. It was definitely harder than it seemed. So he became a farm worker all over the states. He noticed that Filipinos were not getting fairly paid. He joined his fellow farm workers to fight for what was right. Let's fast forward to the Delano grape strike. What happens when this grape strike finally makes it on the page? Larry is missing from the history stage. So maybe it's time that we put his story right where it rightfully belongs. Let's learn about the legacy of Larry Itliong. So when Larry was in Stockton, he learned about AWOC, a union Larry helped recruit for in the Central Valley. He met Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, worked with Mexicans in Delano, also dealing with low wages. Larry's friend Ben said, "We have to go on strike." Larry agreed, but it didn't happen overnight. All of the Filipinos gathered in Filipino Hall. They needed all of their support, not from one, but from all. The legend's true. All Larry had to say was, "I want those in favor to stand up with your hand raised." The crowd is silent. Will they take a stand? After a moment, everybody raised a right hand. This is what they waited for. So with all their might, over 2,000 members were going on strike. Farmers left the fields and the growers were mad. They beat them up, shut the power off. Yo, it was bad. Larry knew they needed solidarity with the Mexicans and Cesar Chavez. Unity. If they worked together, they could win the strike. Cesar Chavez said yes, and for the first time, Mexicans and Filipinos went even further to join 2 unions that united farm workers. They traveled up and down California, telling all the stores to stop carrying grapes from Delano. This lasted 5 years. It was hard, and in 1970, the growers finally gave in to the demands. Justice prevailed, and Larry led the way, and that's why we have Larry Itliong Day. What happens when our Larry finally makes it on the page? It's something missing that the schools just don't say. So maybe it's time that we tell his story through more than just this song. Let's celebrate our friend and modern Larry Itliong. Wow.
So good.
Gayle,
I'm trying not to cry here.
Gayle, you've been part of the process since the beginning, and I took a lot of these phrases and the verses are directly from your book, yours and Don's book, and I'm just so grateful, and also that you allowed us to use illustrations from Andre as well. I'd love to hear any thoughts and reflections you have after seeing this video. And this is your second time, maybe even seeing this video, but yeah.
I mean, at the first feeling for me is really to cry. it's a big deal when I see, and I don't know, other people have written, other scholars have written about Larry Itliong. This is not new for, for the generation that was here, for the people in Delano, and for scholars who have been covering Larry Itliong. Don was our historian who had a PhD in history, one of the few Pinay's actually who has a PhD in history, and the first Pinay, Filipino American woman to graduate from Stanford University with a PhD in history. So she was the first, and to see her work and to see the work of Larry Itliong put together in a way for our community and for students is really huge, because I don't think we've tried to do that as a community. And I don't think we were thinking of that a lot of the times. Our community that came from this book, that came from these times, were definitely ones who were learning how to survive and thrive in the United States, and to create their own dreams outside of what they may have been experiencing, right? Versus violence, racism, and things like that. And so to see this being told in a very accessible way to students is huge. My heart is open. It is so happy that we are telling our story, that we never needed permission. We can tell each other this history. And so for that, I'm really grateful. And I'm so grateful that artists like yourself, like you, and Charles, were able to build upon that story and to have your own personal artistic reflections and emotions and feelings. And so hopefully our students, and definitely our students from Itliong-Vera Cruz School today, can watch this video and feel like they too can have their own personal reflections and their own personal takes and their own artistic interpretations of this history. And I think that is so beautiful, that your art, that also learned from Don's art, that also learned from Larry's art, that also learned from, from whatever on the pages that we all created, from Andre's art, that we are taking this art and now it's being multiplied tenfold. It's absolutely beautiful to feel and see and hear. So I can only imagine what this music video and what your artwork will inspire in others. So that is it. And that's my heart is full with that huge explanation.
Oh my gosh. No, thank you for sharing that, Gail. It's definitely bigger than just ourselves. And like you said, yes, hopefully, students of all ages are able to consume this. But before we move on, with the next part of our panel, I'd love to shout out some people who are part of this real quick. Charles Uy, who loves Filipino American history. I met him in the theater world as well, through a connection with his wife, Joan Almadia, who's a great friend of mine and a Broadway vet as well. Charles directed this project and really had the idea to go to Delano. And as y'all saw in the music video, we were there in the middle of the grape fields. Unfortunately, there were no grapes in the fields at that time, but it was so awesome to be there in the middle of history. On our trip to Delano, we also had Nicanor Evans, who was the DP, director of photography. And we also had my friend Devin Nelwan, who was doing behind the scenes for us. We had PA Nico. We had Veronica Briones also work on this as well. The little boy in the beginning is Charles's son, CJ, who's an actor himself. And I also wanted to shout out the animator of the music video, who took the art of Andre Sabayan and made it come alive in this music video. Jay Mosquera, who is an animator, and we were so blessed to have him. He works at and does work for Disney films as well. So we had the best of the best working behind the scenes, and there's so many people to thank. I want to thank our my friend Kevin Perdido, who played Larry Itliong in that music video, and he got the haircut and everything and the facial hair just to make that come alive. And Max Torres, who played Cesar Chavez, and Leslie Ann Leal, who played Dolores Huerta. Yes, Dolores Huerta. And yeah, I'm so grateful that it's out there, and again, y'all will see the full blown music video when this panel premieres. So thank you to everybody. I'm sorry if I missed anybody. Okay, sweet. We're gonna move on. Gayle, thank you for sharing that. Thanks for sharing your tears. And since the first Zoom meeting that I met you, um, yeah, I'm grateful. Awesome. Okay. Well, for the next part, we want to bring on a new friend I just met via Zoom today. Aileen Pagtakhan was raised in Union City. Hey, and this is her 8th year teaching at Itliong-Vera Cruz Middle School. And by the way, this middle school is named after Larry Itliong in her hometown. She was a community college transferred to San Francisco State University and earned their BA in Asian American Studies. Aileen's time with Pinay Pinoy Educational Partnerships, or PEP, has been central in her curriculum building for students to be active and critical agents of change in and outside the community and for themselves. Aileen, thank you so much for being here. Hi.
Thank you so much, AJ. And thank you, Gayle, for all of this. Both of you are continuing this legacy that is about due time that has been told and shared with others.
It truly is. Aileen, I feel like even just from meeting you today, you're probably the cool teacher, you know? I see how you even just interacted with your students a little bit. So I wanted to ask you, but I'm sure you're hip to just, bring in art and music as part of your curriculum. So why does, art and music and maybe, this music video in the future and books like Journey for Justice, why are these things important for students to consume, for educational purposes and learning about stories like Larry Itliong?
I went to, by the way, the middle school I teach at is where I went to when I was a middle school student.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And so like, I'll get these reflections of like how I was as a kid. And I remember being 12 and 13 years old, being hungry for some Asian American story or some representation in the media. I remember reading PinoyLife.com. I don't know, Gayle, if you remember. I remember seeing, I remember going on AOL and like,
AOL, I remember that.
remember AOL? What was your, okay, never mind. But I also remember hearing about Bindlestiff shows and going, that exists, and being so proud that people in my local community are carrying on our stories and our narratives. And our school is over 90% students of color. And so we identify in so many ways. And I try to share as much counter narratives as I can. I try to share as much Black, Indigenous, people of color narratives that I can, because our stories are valid and they matter. And if they could see what the media looked like and who was casted on TV 20 years ago, it's in the right direction today. And for you to create that video, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm crying. I can't, got to get together behind camera. But just every time I feel representation, whether it's LGBTQ or being Filipino American, there's like this feeling in my chest and it tingles and it feels valid. And it's just joy that radiates from inside. And I hope that my students feel that way too. Yeah. And I think that's what art can do for all of us.
Yeah. Art is truly powerful. I'm like getting emotional too, just like yeah. Aileen, I would love if you could bring some students on to help break up our emotional moment going on here. To maybe ask us, you included, some questions about Larry Itliong.
Thank you. It's my honor I know, me too, to introduce these students. We have Terrence and Shreya from my media lit class, and we're learning about media literacy and how we can turn the story around soon. And one of my students that I have a grand honor of introducing is Lila. So can y'all turn on your cameras? And they have some questions about Larry Itliong for Gayle and for some of our other guests here today. Thank you three for being here. We're going to start off with Terrence. He's going to start off with his question.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask if you could let everyone know one thing about Larry Itliong, what would it be?
I think one quote that struck me that's not in the book, but is in a recording I heard of Larry. And that quote is that he says the world is made up 2/3 of people of color. And they will one day say, it's time. And when that time happens, we must work together and we must learn how to work together because that is what's going to be called for us and for our futures. And I think that it is so timely right now because we all need to learn how to work together. And that is one of the things that not a lot of people have actually heard Larry's voice or have heard direct quotes from him. And that just hits me um, that he really wanted to. And even in his whole time when he was organizing, one of the major lessons, and you can find that in the book, is the first time that he watches a strike is a letter strike. He notices that the white workers asked the Filipino workers to work with them, but when the white workers got a raise, they left the Filipinos, and the Filipinos, they didn't get their raise, and so that was a very major lesson for Larry, was that we all must learn how to work together and we must work united. That is the only way that we can create change. So thank you, Terrence, for that question. Very, very important to know exactly what those important lessons that Larry learned.
And I would love to add that he should also, like Cesar Chavez, alongside with Cesar Chavez, have a freeway named after him here in Los Angeles as well. As I learned, I honestly learned so much from just reading the book. I also, listened to a ton of podcasts, and when I did do a search for just media about Larry Itliong, there really is only a one page of on YouTube of produced videos and media about Larry Itliong. So I would love even more stories to be told about him in different perspectives and different mediums to just know how important he was.
Thank you so much, Terrence. Shreya, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, my question was, how do you think that Larry would feel about having a school named after him and his legacy finally coming to light?
I can't say for sure exactly what he would feel, but I think reading things that I have read about Larry, I think that he would laugh. First, um, like, this is surprising. What a surprise. I've worked so hard. And we have to understand that Filipino Americans were protesting and we're asking for equality from 1920 up to until we see them in 1965 when they started the Delano grape strike. So this was such a long time coming. And I think that maybe he would laugh, but it's also a big thing. I don't think in the things that I've read about him, and I've and within putting together the book and writing the book with Dawn, it was apparent to us that he really wanted to do what was right for the Filipino American community that he served. He did not want um, notoriety. I mean, his character though always arrived before him in a room. Everyone knew Larry. If anyone knew who the leader was in the room, it was Larry. But he always said that he didn't need that applause. He didn't need the ovation. So this would have just been something else for him to accept and to have wonder I'm sure. But he definitely, for me as an artist and as a writer, I'm so proud and as part of the Filipino American community, I am so proud of this, and I'm sure Larry would be too. But I think he would be more subdued, but I personally am so proud, and it is necessary. It is absolutely necessary to see his name on a school.
Yeah, I totally feel you. Thank you so much, Shreya, for that question. Um, I think everything you said, Gail, and obviously I didn't know Larry, and but we went to go visit his gravesite during our Delano visit, and I was honestly expecting statues or like a big, I don't know, tomb or whatever they call it, and flowers and like maybe a walkway to get to, the grave. But it was just, and not just, but it was a humble place where they laid him to rest. And I think, with what you said, Gail, that might be fitting to his legacy. That again, that his work is bigger than just him and Delano, but it's for everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing your answers to the question. And we have Lila, who has a question.
Hi. Kind of similar to Shreya's question, but do you think if Larry Itliong was able to read your book, Gail, or hear AJ's song, what do you think he would have to say about reading that?
I only would know. Thank you for the question, and also thank you to the question to Shreya also, and thank you, Lila. I can imagine what I read about Larry. It mixes with my memories of my grandfather and my uncles who also were farm workers, and coming from that history of family members being farm workers, and having a farm. So, I think of that in my memory. And when I had given the book to my family members, who, we all grew up, we're the last generation who've actually knew the farm workers and grew up with them, who were within our immediate family, and they cried. And I think that Larry, and I'm trying not to cry now, and I think, I don't know what Larry would think, but I think if I put together those two memories and to put together the things that I've seen him say, and this is that one of disbelief, and grief, but of jubilation and of victory, of victorious, of dignity, of defiance. I think those are all mixed in with so many emotions. When we as a people, as a community, and even as Larry Itliong, if he was here, and even as Dawn, she's no longer here with us either. She passed away in 2018, right when we sent the book to the printers. I think there's so many emotions. It's like, yes, it's here. There's so much more to be said, though. There's so much more to be spread, and I want that to be known, is that we have so much work to spread, to tell, to show this story. All three of you students here today, once you read his story, you too have to take it upon yourself. You're going to feel all those feelings. You're going to feel that and say, why didn't I know about this? Why didn't I see myself in this history? Why didn't I see myself in any other books other than this one? And we have to go through those emotions just as well. And I think they're the same emotions from Larry. And I think Larry would really be very proud, though, also. He'd be very proud that his work did make the page. And so that's what I think. And that I think it's very similar to what everyone, when they open, they read, they see AJ's work, they see Charles's work, they see the video, they hear the song. When Aileen teaches it, our whole community engages with this history, is all of the rush of those emotions together. And then what do you do the following moment, right? You read it and you forget, or you read it and you bring it with you.
Love it.
Thank you, Gail. You're right about all those emotions intertwining and feeling that pain and grief and joy and jubilation. It's all there. Um, I'm not sure. Like, thank you. I'm just like truly touched by what you shared with us. And thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lila, for the question. We also have questions for, we all watched the video today, and like, thank you so much for sharing with us. And we have questions for AJ too, and about your musician journey. So we're going to start off with Terrence.
Yeah, my question for you, AJ, is what advice would you give for people or even students that are interested in going into the music business?
Hey, Terrence again. Thanks for your question. I would say, uh, speaking on behalf of my own journey, is that I used a lot of resources that were free, and which was YouTube and the webcam on my laptop. Like literally, that's how I started. In 2004, I uploaded some music on my MySpace page. Y'all don't even know what that is. Aileen does, Gayle does. Um, Add me, and I just took the initiative, I guess. And nowadays there's SoundCloud and things where you can um, upload your own music onto, and programs like GarageBand that didn't really exist back then. But I would say use your resources. And one big thing that I really love to push as well is to whatever field you're getting into. And specifically for me, it was being good at what I do, which is playing the piano well and learning how to read music. And I really, as much as I love the, hey everyone, I play by ear and I'm gonna figure it out myself, there's so many cool awesome things on YouTube that are able to teach you, to give you that head start. So past just figuring out yourself, but also learning theory and being really proficient at your instrument. Because to be honest, especially as Asian Americans and any underrepresented community in the music industry, we have to be really, really, really good, so then no one bats an eye and says, oh, they're all right, because maybe they're not used to seeing us in the limelight in that way. But yeah, that's a short advice on what I would give. Thank you, Terrence.
It also makes me think about what Gail said earlier, is that we don't need permission to be great. And so for you to take on that creative journey is powerful, and a message to others like, we work hard, so hey, you see us.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
Thanks,
thank
Aileen.
you. And thank you, Terrence. Shreya, do you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, my question was, what inspired you personally to focus on Larry Itliong and write about him?
Yeah, thanks, Shreya. I did mention it in the beginning, and I think it was just a bunch of divine instances that led me to saying, all right, let's commit to writing about Larry Itliong. And really, we did a cold email to Gayle. So we didn't have any connections to Gayle. And me, it was still the beginning of the project, and I knew if I had wanted to maybe change who I wanted to write about, I think Barbara would have been okay with that in TheaterWorks. But when we got in contact with Gayle, that really solidified it for me, because we had someone who was so passionate, who also, and again, like Gayle said, we don't need permission to tell our stories, but it felt like a blessing as well for me to have access to the book, to take from the book, and put it into this medium, which is a music that uses rap as a device. I also was inspired by Hamilton, the way that Lin-Manuel writes his raps, and was really inspiring for me for this song. And also a Filipino American rapper by the name of Ruby Ibarra, the way that she raps. And I know she's visited Delano before as well. Aileen and Gayle know about Ruby Ibarra. She really inspired me. She's a good friend of mine to write this song in this way. So that really, when I had these people, on my team, I guess, and rooting for me, that's what helped me solidify writing about Larry Itliong. And I knew from then on, then it would be kind of easy to just like get all the knowledge and then put it out in my way. So that's what inspired that. Thanks, Shreya.
And thank you, AJ, for answering that question. Definitely echoes the history of our people as our community got us. So it's great to know that this is a work of community and love.
Yes.
And Lila, do you have a question for us?
AJ, when did you first learn about Larry Itliong, and was there something from that kind of stuck out to you to go into writing this whole song about him?
Yeah, to be honest, the thing that struck me is that I didn't know enough about Larry Itliong. That's kind of a crazy thing, right? And again, bringing it back to what I mentioned earlier was when I played a Larry Itliong Day event. Leah Salonga was a part of this, who's big in the Filipino and Filipino American community. She played Princess Jasmine and was singing voice of Mulan as well. Having these big people be a part of it, and I'm not like, oh, why do we celebrate Larry Itliong? It's just I was wanting to know more about the celebrations we have and for this day, and also why it's not bigger. I was feeling like it maybe should be a bigger day, something that we all as Filipino Americans celebrate. So Lila, to answer your question, it was the lack of what I knew that drew me to writing about Larry Itliong. So thanks, Lila, for that question.
And thank you, Lila. And thank you, AJ. I believe we have some questions from our attendees here today.
Oh, nice. We do. Well, hey, you know what? Before that, we do actually have a special surprise guest, and maybe we can kind of recap some of these questions that Shreya, Terrence, and Lila asked to get some thoughts from our next guest, who I'm so excited to bring on. Patty Itliong-Serda is the youngest daughter of Larry Itliong. She's here with us today. She's born and raised in Delano, where she is a librarian at an elementary school, and she's so excited to be here with you today at this very exciting event. Please give a warm welcome to Patty Itliong-Serda.
Hello, everyone.
Hi to Patty.
Hello, Theater Works USA. Of course, my beloved Cougars, Gayle, AJ, and everyone else. I'm so honored to be here this morning with you all, or maybe afternoon. Thank you for letting me be a part of this so exciting event. It means so much to myself and my family, and of course to my dad's legacy and all that he stands for and has done for our Filipino American history. So thank you all. I'm so honored to be here with you all today. And the video, AJ, touched my heart. The moment I watched it, it brought tears to my eyes. My dad would be so proud of this video and all that has come to light. So I want to thank you, AJ, for that. And Gayle, you already know how much you mean to me. And it all started with your book. And I'm so honored and blessed to be a part of this exciting event. I want to go visit you Cougars in Union City. I would love it. I'm so excited. I would love to see your school someday. So please invite me.
Maybe we can do a tour. Aileen, what do you think about that?
I am so down for that. Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, Aileen, maybe you can help choose a question from any of the attendees, but while we're waiting for, the question, and we are, closing this out with, very, very special guest, Patty. How I wanted to go back to Shreya's question, actually. How do you think your dad would feel to know that, a whole middle school was named after him? And along with that, kind of with Lila's question, like how he would maybe possibly feel about like a book coming out of him and a music video, etc.
Well, Gayle definitely hit it right on the head. My dad was very humble person. Of course he would be very excited to know that an elementary school was actually named after him, music videos, books, and all of that, would all come second to his work, but I'm sure he would be very excited to know that, his hard work and dedication is coming to light. And it's very exciting that, young people, which are our future, are learning about my dad. So just these little things that are happening now, so many years later, is amazing. And I get excited about it, and I'm sure he is excited as well.
Thank you for that. Aileen, is there something that even maybe you want to ask, or a question and with you as the vessel?
I I think a lot of the questions asked by students is, since you're here, Patty, is like, is there something you'd like us to know about this legacy from your perspective of like being from the area and wanting to spread it across the nation and the world about your dad?
Yes, sure. A little bit of history about my dad. He self-educated, himself. He learned everything by reading, and he didn't have much of an education. And it's so important that, young people know that whatever, wherever you come from, whatever, it's up to you to have the ambition and, the power is all in your hands. So you determine your future and what you stand for. And my dad's passion was equality for all, so he fought for that right. And with no education, just him himself, self-taught, he you can, in other words, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And I want the young people to know that, that there's always a way. When you feel like there isn't, there is always a way. And my dad is a good example of that to you all, that whatever you put your heart, mind, and soul into, you can accomplish what you need to. And my dad's passion was equality, and I think he definitely was able to accomplish that in all his works.
Love that. Thank you for that. Gayle, I know we're all kind of feeling some kind of emotions, and again, like we said earlier, there are new beginnings to when the stories are being retold and things like that. Gayle, do you have anything? I know you already know, Patty, y'all already have, a relationship, a friendship. I would love if do you have anything to say or ask, and then for the panel to hear as well.
A question. I think because many of us, and I think we need to work on this, to put out quotes by your dad, Patty. And for me to ask is really an honor too, despite the fact that we're friends and I've seen you and we've shared space together and shared, food and everything. We broke bread. They saw everyone, they saw Larry's, your father's fighting side a lot, and he was relentless at pushing forward what needed to be done for Filipino Americans. What are the soft sides, the things that your memory, that memory, and then you don't have to share the most personal, the things that you close to your heart, because I can only imagine what all of this is for you and your family. That you two have these memories. But I think, what would you want us to know about Larry on his softer side, on his himself as a human?
Well, I was only 7 years old when my dad passed away. He passed away of Lou Gehrig's disease. And one thing I can tell you about my father is that he was a very passionate man. He loved his family, and anything he was passionate about, he gave 100%. So he was hardworking, he was passionate, but yet he was so humble. So, in a way that he, and when he was privately with us, he was very quiet, but very strong at the same time. So I think I would want you guys to know that, his passion and his desire and his humbleness was above everything, and his love that he showed for us as a family. He tried to keep us all very private. He was very public, but we were very private. And I love that about my dad, because he never wanted us to know the struggles that he went through, because he was such a strong man. And we all knew that after the fact, after he passed away, because during all this time, he never brought any of that home to us. He was just, when it was family time, it was family time, and that was it. So I want you all to know that he was very passionate and humble, very humble.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, wow, it's been quite an hour. And we are going to close out in a little bit. So to those who do need to leave, our virtual attendees, feel free. I know a lot of y'all are in school right now. I want to do a quick thank you, though, to everyone at TheaterWorks USA, to Shreya, Lila, Terrence, and the rest of the students who joined us today. I want to shout out also everyone who welcomed me in Delano, me and my crew. And they also fed us with food, Filipino food, and there were so many people to shout out. We got to visit Filipino Hall, which we mentioned in the music video as well. So I want to thank everyone for being a part of it. I would love a last maybe sentence or two to the students and to everybody watching. Let's go, Aileen first.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
just a quick sentence to close us out, about maybe to our students and to those watching and who just watched the premiere of the video.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. You are part of this legacy, and now you are a witness to it. So how do we continue to share and help everyone else be a witness and an agent in this legacy of change and of Larry Itliong?
Thank you, Aileen. Thank you so much again, Aileen, for joining us today and with your students. Gayle Romasanta, we'd love for you to close us out with something as well.
I'm going to use a Larry quote. We need to learn how to work together. And I think that is the biggest thing when we talk about this legacy, that we need each other in every level, in every phase, and don't forget to learn. As you begin to politicize yourself, you begin to read and see what's happening in our world. Ultimately, we still need to learn how to work together.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gayle. And thank you again for inspiring me to write my project as well. And, Patty, would love for you to close us out with a sentence or two. I just wanted to also say that I lost my father at 10, and I had just a really quick vision when you were talking about, I mean, it's weird to even say that our dads are like in heaven somewhere else, even though we kind of feel them here sometimes. I just felt like they were having a beer or a cigarette together, up there real quick, like, because kind of the legacies are clashing a little bit right now in this room and in the art that we created. So Patty.
Well, I would like to say something that my dad would always tell us as young children in my home. And I would like to share that with all of you today. He always told us never to be afraid to stand up for what you believe in.
I love that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the panel. Again, shout outs to Delano, Alex and Roger, FAHNS as well up there. Yo, thanks for the tour. And thanks again, Gayle, Patty, Aileen, Barbara, everyone at TheaterWorks USA. We'll see y'all next time. Peace out.